All this talk about Tennessee and the college football playoff rankings, and we did a show on that last night. Go check it out. But what about Tennessee and recruiting? Early signing day is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Where do the Vols stand with some top targets? And will the Vols hold on to some top commitments? That and so much more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into your Wednesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Can't thank you enough for being here, making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine. You know it. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. No college football playoff ranking discussion on this show. But if you didn't catch the little mini pod I did last night, it should be in your feed. So I encourage you to go and listen and watch that to get my reaction on where Tennessee ranked in the college football playoff rankings from Tuesday night. So a lot going on here on the show. But here on today's show, presented by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more of a FanDuel with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to go ahead and check it out. Going to talk with Matt Ray, my colleague over at VolQuest.com, a whole lot about Tennessee recruiting, priority targets to finish off the class of 2025, looking ahead to 26. A lot of discussion there, plus more college football playoff talk with Matt Ray from a Tennessee perspective. That's coming up here in segments 1 and 2. And then finally, we'll get to Josh Ward, a little Ward Wednesday conversation to cap off a Wednesday show. So without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Matt Ray on Tennessee recruiting. Matt, signing day is just 2 weeks away. I mean, it's really kind of snuck up on us a little bit. They've moved it from towards the end of the month and now towards the beginning of the month, 4th through the 6th. So that's 2 weeks away right now. Tennessee, obviously a top 10 class nationally. Trying to hold on to some commits right now, trying to go get some more. But overall, just kind of entering this final stretch, man, I mean, there's so much to like about this class of 25 for Tennessee, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really strong class for Tennessee when you look at, the hit rate among their top targets and landing guys that they really feel strongly about in terms of evaluation. I mean, obviously, when you look at this class, George McIntyre was Tennessee's guy at quarterback. They made the decision that they wanted him coming out of last fall and were able to get that recruitment done in the winter. David Sanders was, the prize, the crown jewel, whatever you want to call it, the top guy that Tennessee was after for months, and they were able to outlast Ohio State, Nebraska, and some others in that one. I think defensively, though, Eric, right now this class is really strong for Tennessee. I mean, you look at just the different spots. You've got Maryon Dye, right on the cusp of being a top 50 player in the On3 rankings, a guy that's coveted by programs nationally as an edge rusher. You get better there. He's going to grow and develop and be able to play multiple techniques inside of Tennessee's defense. You've got a duo of linebackers and Christian Gass and Jaden Harmon, who you beat out some big-time programs for in Alabama.
Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, those two dudes wreak havoc. Your linebacker room gets deeper and much more talented with those two guys. And, don't forget Brandon Haynes, who I think's got a really nice ceiling as well. Then you add in, Shady Hayward at safety. It feels like Tennessee's needed that true elite safety type prospect. They've added some nice pieces at safety, but those guys have been a little bit more versatile. I think with Shady Hayward, he's a true safety that does a lot of different things. Another guy right inside right at the top 50 portion of the On3 rankings, one that the Tennessee staff is really excited about. And then you add some nice pieces, in the skill spots right now. Obviously, Tennessee's not done recruiting in this class. There's still DeJuan Morris and Isaiah Campbell and some other names out there that they're trying to add to this class, and we'll see what they're able to get done there. But, Travis Smith, top 60 wide receiver, Radarius Jackson, top 100 wide receiver, Joakim Donson just moved into the On 300. You give George McIntyre some really nice pieces at receiver to work with those 3 4-stars. You got Deshaun Brame at tight end. I think Charles Power does an excellent job in ranking and evaluating guys. I did not understand Deshaun Brame falling, and it wasn't much. It was just a touch, maybe 10, 12 spots in the On3 rankings. But I mean, you got this guy out here returning punts for touchdowns out there in Kansas as a tight end. I mean, he looks college ready right now. and you pair him with Jack Van Dorselaer. It's a strong class for Tennessee across the board with some room to continue adding to it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Matt Ray works with me over at VolQuest.com. We are a recruiting site. That is the basis of what we are, and of course, branch out and do everything else. But your focus is obviously recruiting. You live in this stuff every single day. I mean, obviously, I know what's going on in recruiting, but that's not my primary focus. So I'm getting at you pull up this commit list as we're in the final stretch, and you're just reminded, like, gosh, like,
yeah,
look at how many top 100 players. I mean, David Sanders is a top 10 player nationally, and a guy you mentioned, Maryon Dye, was a huge get. Deshaun Brame, who you just mentioned, the tight end returning punts at that level. And, I remember it's still a big part of this class. Don't hear me wrong, but like Ethan Utley was a must have, and he absolutely is. And Tennessee got that done early in the cycle, but like he's, like 5th, 6th, 7th down the list of guys that I'm just mentioning right now. Darius Jackson, a great find early in this cycle. Nick Moore from Jeff County. Like, there's a lot of quality names here that I think are going to turn into some pretty good football players. Let's go to a pair of guys that Tennessee's after, trying to solidify and cap this class of 2025. Coming in on an official visit this weekend, the USC commit, but Tennessee native DeJuan Morris, running back, and then of course Isaiah Campbell, who it's formerly of Clemson, but now it's Tennessee or North Carolina. What's the latest? What does Tennessee need to do to solidify things with Morris this weekend? And then secondly, where is Tennessee in this pecking order with Carolina for Isaiah Campbell?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds really generic when you talk about DeJuan Morris, but I think it's about checking some final boxes for him and his family. A visit out here earlier in the month went really well, allowed Tennessee to set up an official visit for him. The football fit makes a lot of sense, but USC still continue to recruit him hard, trying to remind him of why he committed out there in the spring. It's been a task for Tennessee to get him back to campus up until that point in November because USC's done such a nice job of recruiting him. So this weekend's just about, getting some of those final points home and trying to show him why things line up more to where he should be on Rocky Top over time, and, answering some questions from the family, because I think, some around him still continue to like the idea, the prospect of what USC has to offer him as a player as well. So Tennessee, will finalize and fine tune some details this weekend.
When you look at a couple of guys in this committed class that Tennessee's really trying to hold on to, and that means you're doing something right. If you are having to relentlessly continue to recruit your own commits and hang on to them with the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, whoever, those are the type of kids that you want. But a couple of guys especially have been getting a lot of interest from Georgia lately. Linebacker Christian Gass, safety Shady Hayward, and wide receiver Travis Smith. Where's Tennessee kind of with that trio entering this, again, the final stretch here before signing day?
Yeah, let me go back to your question about Isaiah Campbell that I completely skipped over.
Well, in my mind, I tuned you out. So that's my thing. I tuned you out like so many people do, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm kidding. And so I completely forgot that you didn't mention Isaiah Campbell. But please, the floor is yours. So tell me about Isaiah Campbell.
So, I mean, I think, we've talked about Isaiah Campbell over at VolQuest a good bit. And, the fact that North Carolina is a very real factor for him. He's a guy that many describe as a homebody. I think he'd probably describe himself as that a little bit. This visit this past weekend in North Carolina went well. It's something we've said that we would watch for some time. And, they have played a better brand of football over the last few weeks. They've done enough to get themselves bowl eligible. They were able to answer questions for him. Tennessee did a really nice job of recruiting him when he was committed to Clemson. They were a big reason why he backed off of that decision. The relationships in Knoxville are very strong. The football fit in Knoxville makes a lot of sense to him. Now it's going to be go home and sit down and try to make an informed decision. He's been very in-depth with both of these programs now, and that's really what it's coming down to, Eric. It's going to come down to Tennessee and North Carolina in the end. I don't know that there's a true pecking order right now. I think it's going to be sit down, let a visit, wear off a little bit, and try to make a decision here over these final 2 weeks. And Tennessee, much like North Carolina, very much in play, and this was one that could go either way right now.
It's weird when you think of football. It's like, well, Tennessee just makes the most sense. I know Carolina's won a couple of games. They're going to be bowl eligible and all that. But, like, how much longer is Mack Brown going to coach?
Yep.
Tennessee, you play a ton of guys on the defensive front. You got Rodney Garner. You got a winning program. Tennessee, if they win out, will finish with double-digit wins in 2 of the last 3 years. Very much a chance to make the college football playoff. But again, it's every priorities are different for every single recruit. I mean, how important is it for him to stay closer to Durham, where he's from, and go to Chapel Hill, which is 8 miles, that Tobacco Road, right? How important is that for him? Well, I guess we'll find out. Let's go back to those commits. I was talking about Christian Gass, Shady Hayward, Travis Smith. Where is Tennessee? You don't have to spend a lot of time on all 3 of them, but where is Tennessee with those current commits heading into 2 weeks away from signing day?
Well, that was all the talk of the town last week, right? Is Christian Gass going to be at Georgia? Is Travis Smith actually going to Georgia? How real is that conversation? What's Shady Hayward going to do? Georgia's recruited all 3 of those guys. They've had conversations, communicated well with those guys over the last few weeks here. But at this point, coming out of the weekend, I like where Tennessee is for all 3 of those guys right now. Now, obviously, there's still some runway left in those recruitments. Those are in-state guys that, obviously have ties to Georgia. Shady Hayward's, from down in South Georgia. He hears about it every day. Christian Gass is 40 miles from Athens, basically, maybe not even that far. And then Travis Smith has teammates and 7-on-7 teammates and high school teammates that are committed to Georgia, and Georgia's trying to revamp their receiver room. And Georgia's been in these recruitments all for a long time. I think the key thing with each is the consistency that Tennessee has shown, the relationships they've built, the relationships that they have built, and just never falling off at any point in these recruitments. That's what allowed them to get the initial commitment. And, as they push to hold on here at the end, that's going to be the difference maker, in my opinion. Christian Gass, he did attend the game, watched as a spectator, not in the Georgia recruiting session. Travis Smith initially told me he was going to the game. Still some speculation out there on if he did or not. He said he didn't. I think he probably meant he didn't go as a recruit, because he definitely wasn't in the Georgia recruiting section. And then Shady Hayward, he did not go to the game at all. I think Tennessee's done a really nice job there of stifling a Georgia push on the recruiting front with Shady Hayward, and it goes back all the way to November when they offered him in person and never stopped recruiting him from then.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to go crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy, no hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was as easy to get wireless just for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time that I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get started, all you need to do is go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see right now 3-month plans that are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk, text, deliver the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your contacts as well. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That is mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 up front, payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than 40 GB on unlimited plan. Additional tax and fees. Restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for more details. I don't want this to sound... What's the right way to say it? I don't want this to sound like I'm dissing Tennessee's linebackers, because I'm not. I think Aaron Carter is a dude. I like Jeremiah T-Lander's makeup. I think Jalen Smith is getting better and better and better. Caleb Perry's giving Tennessee more than I thought he would, to be completely honest with you. But I remember a couple cycles ago, I remember Tennessee very much in those C.J. Allen, Small Munden. Those are the 2 Georgia linebackers of the day, and they are just so good. And I feel like, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, Tennessee is getting to, Aaron Carter's in that conversation. Tennessee's getting to where you're getting more of those type of blue chip prospects, and you're that's what Christian Gass is going to be, in my opinion. I guess I'm just saying, I look at Georgia's linebackers, I'm like, dude, those are so good, and Tennessee was right there at the altar for both of those guys, at least for C.J. Allen, and came up short. But now, cycle 5 for Josh Heupel, or whatever cycle this is, you're winning more of those battles, and I think that's just a testament to him, his staff, and of course, the winning product on the field.
Yeah, Gas is 102 in the on-3 rankings. I think Harmon's 109.
Yeah.
They're underrated. I'm going to tell you right now, they're underrated at that. They should be higher. I think both those guys have top 50 potential when you look at the body of work, kind of what they've done inside the state of Georgia this fall. I was talking to Rusty Manziel about both those guys earlier in the week, and he thinks that they both have a chance to move up in the final rankings as things continue to unfold and the playoffs unfold. Both of those guys are guys that wreak havoc. And when you look at it, Tennessee, beat Georgia for one and beat Alabama for the other. So the proof's kind of in the pudding there. And Georgia never went away. Georgia's never gone away for Christian Gas. So, that should tell you how highly valued he is, by Kirby Smart and his staff. But, at the end of the day, Tennessee's linebacker room is only getting better with the addition of those two guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Time of this recording, it's before the third round, I guess, of the college football playoff rankings were released. But if you're listening to this show right now and you haven't checked out the mini pod show that I did late last night, go check that out. I react to where Tennessee is. But technically, we're recording before that. So, Matt, kind of tell me what what Tennessee needs to do in order to make these playoffs. Obviously, losing on the road to Georgia didn't help. I'm intrigued to see where Tennessee falls in these upcoming rankings, obviously. But, winning out, you need to be 10-2. What else needs to happen? Because Tennessee doesn't control its own destiny anymore, but it's not like you need 17 things to go your way. You just need maybe one thing to go your way, or just a couple.
Yeah, maybe one, Eric. I mean, maybe just one thing. First of all, you still control your own destiny in terms of winning out. Win out. Probably win with a little bit of style at Vanderbilt.
Boy, that is coach talk if I've ever heard it right there, Matt Ray.
Probably win with a little bit of style at Vanderbilt. I think that helps you, given the way that they played some teams at home, even the way they kind of took Texas to the wire. They beat Alabama. They've proven that they're tough. Vanderbilt, contrary to what Nick Saban said, is a tough place to play, at least in 2024.
But I'll stop you right there. It won't be for Tennessee. I'm not saying Tennessee will run away with the game, but that will be a home game for the Vols.
Yeah, that will be a home game for Tennessee. So you have a chance to go out there, get healthy this week against UTEP, get some guys some work, and then go win with some style points at Vanderbilt. It feels like they're maybe running out of gas a little bit. They've got LSU, I think, this weekend, so another tough opponent for them. Then they turn around and play Tennessee. But from that point forward, I think it's really only maybe one thing for Tennessee. I think BYU losing last week ensured, and it probably already was, but BYU losing last week ensured that the Big 12 is a one-team conference. I feel like the ACC is a one-team conference. And from that point forward, can USC spoil Notre Dame's season, or can Army spoil Notre Dame's season? I think a 10-2 Notre Dame with a loss to USC and NIU, I don't think they're getting in over Tennessee.
Shouldn't.
Indiana, what does that matchup this weekend look like against Ohio State? I think if Ohio State beats them by 2 scores, when you look at Indiana's strength of schedule, the teams that they've played, I don't think they deserve to be in over a 10-2 Tennessee, even with that loss to Arkansas. Florida can still play spoiler for you as well. If Florida beats Ole Miss and you're Tennessee, then you're in. It's not a ton of different things that can go your way. You just need one of several different things to go your way, in my opinion. I think it starts this week with Indiana losing to Ohio State.
Yeah, and that's where I want to add, again, my biggest fear is the committee that's, the chair is the AD at Michigan. I mean, it's human element in there. I get it, and it's a thankless job, but I'm just, they're the punching bag for me on this show, because I don't think that they're very smart. And again, there's smart people there, but that's just kind of what I'll do. My biggest fear is Ohio State beats them by 2 scores, maybe even 3 scores, and they're like, well, not 11-1, and the only losses to Ohio State, our number 2 team in our rankings. It's hard to keep them out, but you're right. Strength of schedule entering this matchup is 106th.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculously embarrassing how bad that schedule is. And this is coming from a Tennessee schedule this year that's not too fire either. I mean, NC State lets you down. Tennessee's got a ton of ranked wins, but what happened after those games, right? NC State has been awful. Oklahoma has been awful. Tennessee's second best win right now at the time of this recording is Florida, and Florida's kind of turned it around. Good for them in that regard for playing for Billy Napier. But My biggest fear is no matter what, they're going to keep Indiana in, but I completely agree with you. Like, if Indiana loses by anything more than 2 scores, 100% should not even be a debate. They should be out. Florida Ole Miss, I'm paying attention to. And I'll tell you what, man, one thing that Tennessee absolutely can't afford happen, in my opinion, Texas better cowboy up. And, if everybody's in love with Texas, everybody loves them some Texas, right? Texas better cowboy up. What is that next week, that matchup with A&M? Yep. You better beat the Aggies. Because if the Aggies win that game, it really, really muddies the water for that logjam of 10-2 teams. And Tennessee right now, for whether it's deserving or not deserving, kind of in my opinion, the perception-wise, kind of in the back of that 10-2 conversation.
Yeah, I think that game is as big for Tennessee as any. I mean, you need Texas to keep winning, unless they're going to lose 2 in a row, which I don't think is going to happen.
No.
But
who do they have this week?
I don't have any. They may not have a game this week. I have no idea. They may
keep talking. I'll look it up.
It may be Texas A&M, but and they're done. But at the end of the day, if you're Tennessee,
Kentucky,
they're not going to lose this week
at home. You ain't losing that one.
Yeah.
Then again, Ole Miss lost, so you never know. But
yeah, so I mean, if you're Tennessee, you do not need Texas A&M to win that game. You need Texas to go to the SEC championship. At that point, it probably doesn't matter what they do. If they lose and to whoever they play, then you're probably fine. But you need Texas A&M knocked out of the conversation. I think it's an interesting conversation between Tennessee and Texas, which is probably another topic for another day. But
it 100% is. But like the fact that everybody loves them some Texas and they're ranked so high, like it's almost like that's why the whole thing where you start out in the rankings doesn't matter. It absolutely does.
Their best win is who?
Michigan on the road?
And again, you talk about NC State falling off, you talk about Oklahoma falling off. Michigan's not a good football team.
Oh, this is not. I mean, everybody thinks Michigan, they still think about the national championship. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's not coaching up there. This is not, the best thing about that program right now is the linebackers coach, Brian Jean-Marie, right? I mean, this is not the same Michigan team. So, yeah, it's.
And Texas tried to make it a game against Georgia late. They got shell-shocked. At home. Tennessee went into the locker room 17-17, got suffocated in the second half, couldn't find their way, obviously, but that Arkansas loss obviously hinders Tennessee some. But if you're Texas, I don't know that you have a better win than Tennessee at any point, with Tennessee having the win over Alabama. So if you fall to 10-2, that becomes an interesting conversation between Tennessee and Texas. But I think you're right. Everybody loves them some Texas right now, and they have playmakers, and they have the guys on the offensive line. They have the quarterback play. The defense has been fine. But again, who have they played to this point? That's what I would like to kind of see.
Yeah, if they were to beat, in this conference, if they were to beat A&M, then then they'd be 11-1 because they're not losing Kentucky. But regardless, you don't want another team there if you're Tennessee. So A&M better win that football game. Regardless, Matt, man, this has been so much fun. This season's been so much fun.
Yeah.
This expanded playoffs.
I was very skeptical about the expanded playoffs in some way. And I think more so I was probably skeptical about the conference championship games than anything. Because I told some folks last year, as things were winding down, I said, you're going to have playoff games in November. You're going to have teams playing for their life in late October and early November. And we've seen that. So those games have been fun. The conference championship games certainly have more value than I thought they would. I mean, you've got Lane Kiffin saying, maybe there's not a benefit for a team with 2 losses going there. And if they lose, they, get knocked out of the playoff conversation. 1, just go win. What kind of mentality is that? But 2, again, you don't want to play for an automatic qualifier and a bye. You'd rather, sit at home, sit that one out, and have to go potentially on the road or host a home playoff game against whatever team that's maybe hot. I would say you always want to bye, you always want to advance, and get that extra week of rest there. It's half a dozen one and half a dozen the other. If you're getting the rest during conference championship week and then gearing up to make the playoff run, fine. If not, you're getting rest when the rest of the playoff field is not. So I think the conference championship holds more value than I thought it would. It's been a lot of fun to watch unfold.
And by the time, say you win that conference championship game, by the time your next game is played, your opponent will have played as many games. So it's like it kind of evens out, right? And and we don't have time to talk about it here. We got to go, but I'm so intrigued to see how they treat the loser of the SEC championship game, who has 2 losses. Because in me, like, I cannot imagine them penalizing a team like, oh, well, we made you play this game. You played an extra game and you lost another night. Well, that's it. Good season. We'll see you later. Like, I can't see that happening, but we truly don't know until we see it play out. So maybe we see that here in a couple of weeks. Matt Ray, awesome stuff, talking recruiting, talking Tennessee football. We got so much stuff over at VolQuest.com right now. Really enjoy your work, and we'll talk to you later, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
Missing someone this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Well, it's super easy to make that happen. We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family is going to love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. Seamless sharing where you can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription required. Add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere. It only takes a tap of your phone and send new photos to the frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. They'll feel so much more connected to you as well. Satisfaction guaranteed. We're confident that you're going to love Skylight. We offer free 120-day returns. Top-rated brand, over 1 million happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews. My mother's one of them. She has one, and she loves it. Now, as a special offer, limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's Sky, SKILIGHTFRAME, skylightframe.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. I want to give a shout out to them and, of course, our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action this season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. It's America's best sportsbook in terms of where you can make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $5 when you bet $150 in bonus bets. If you win, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. All you need to do is visit FanDuel.com today to get started. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Josh, obviously not the outcome Tennessee fans wanted down between the hedges in Athens, Georgia against the Bulldogs. Let me ask you this. It feels like a different walking away. It feels like a different feeling compared to that of 2022. Both outcomes 14 points, I believe, but in 2022, it felt like, man, Tennessee's got a long way to go. This go around, it's like, man, Tennessee could and should have won that game if it played up to half its potential. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I felt more like Tennessee belonged against Georgia this year than 2 years ago. And I know the outcome in the second half and that final drive by Georgia where they just kept marching and ultimately scored a touchdown to put the game away was very frustrating. But this is the first time in a while we've been there in the middle of the fourth quarter without knowing what the outcome would be. And that is good for Tennessee. I'll also reiterate what Josh Heupel said, and I think it's great that he said it on Monday, that Tennessee is too far removed from where the program was when he arrived to feel good about a game that Tennessee didn't win. So Tennessee should not feel good about the way the game went in the end and how they performed, but it is a sign of the progress the program has made. I think Tennessee is a playoff caliber team. I don't think Tennessee is a national championship caliber team, and the issues we've seen offensively this season and part of what showed up on Saturday, I think back that up. But Tennessee is a more competitive team with the best teams in the country than we've seen in a while.
What needs to happen for Tennessee to make the playoffs? To take rankings out of the consideration. I mean, Tennessee obviously kind of on the outside looking in, if you will, for right now, but not too far removed. You don't need 12 things to happen. Maybe just one or two, a couple of things. If I'm a Tennessee fan this weekend, really the next 2 weeks, what am I watching for?
Yeah, I do think it can be one or two things. for Tennessee, and the Vols can be in. I think the Vols have a great shot to be in, provided they take care of the next 2 weeks. That is understood. If Minnesota could upset Penn State, maybe that helps. If Notre Dame could fall in one of the next 2 games, that could help. A Florida upset of Ole Miss. If Georgia or Auburn were for some reason to stumble, that could help. I wonder if Texas A&M beats Texas and Texas is 10-2 with no really impressive win. Going to Michigan and winning the way that they did is worth noting, but it's not a big-time resume win with how this season has played out. That's an interesting conversation. But I think those are a few of the games to pay attention to. Let's see with Indiana. If Indiana is really competitive with Ohio State but loses, then I think it might be tough to beat out an 11-1 Hoosiers team, even though I think Tennessee is better than Indiana. But if Indiana gets blown out in that game, then that will help Tennessee's case against Indiana too.
Tennessee's defense has been so great all year long. Not Tennessee's night defensively against Georgia, allowing 31 points, over 400 yards of total offense. Besides a pass rush that really kind of ties into everything, what went wrong for Tennessee on that side of the football?
I was stunned by the lack of pass rush. I didn't necessarily expect Tennessee to do what Ole Miss did. I do think Georgia being back at home versus the environment it was in at Ole Miss affected what Georgia's offensive line was doing, but not providing no pressure on Carson Beck was a huge problem. At this point, we've talked about what Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart, I'm sure, is a part of it and what Georgia planned offensively. It was masterful over 4 quarters against Tennessee's defense, and Tennessee's defense couldn't stop it. And Carson Beck in the 4th quarter, 11 of 12 passing, he got in a rhythm. And maybe that first scoring drive where they capitalize on a long play, he runs into and kind of over a defender. He gets his mojo going. At some point, he was probably going to find that. I'm not surprised that Carson Beck had his best game of the season, but it's no less disappointing for Tennessee that the Vols allowed that to happen, that they got beat by Georgia's tight ends. I thought Dylan Bell going out was going to be a real problem for Georgia because I think he was probably a big plan for them going in, and then he's taken out of the equation, and it did not matter for Georgia's offense.
We look at Tennessee basketball. Let's shift gears here to Tennessee men's hoops. 4-0 on the young season, couple of big-time wins over some easy opponents. Of course, Louisville there in week 2 or game number 2. What have you liked about Tennessee basketball so far this season?
I do think that there are going to be more scoring options for Tennessee in different games. I think matchups could depend on if we're talking about a big Chaz Lanier game, a big performance by Igor Milicic. We'll have games where Zakai was just terrific as the season goes along, and we'll talk about that. I think Meshack will have some of his games. Probably a game where Gainey hits three-pointers for Tennessee, scores 15 points, and is a big difference maker in the end and what he's able to provide. Last year, there was so much dependence on Dalton Connect to go off offensively, and there might be a game or two where we look back and say, man, they could use a Dalton Connect in this particular game because he was that special. But I think there will be different games where we talk about different players. I love what Milicic adds. I was curious to see how he would factor in with his skill set, a guy who's a pretty athletic 4 with range on his outside shot. And Akpar is a big physical presence. I don't think he's a guy they're going to feed the basketball to go get buckets for them, but there'll be games where he has putbacks and makes big defensive stops for Tennessee. So the makeup and the potential that we talked about during the off season is there. Let's see about health, how guys hold up, because we're talking about JP Estrella health concerns early on and Cam Carr a little bit, but there's real depth again, and there's real potential with what this team can do.
I was going to say with the injury bug to JP Estrella, how does Tennessee kind of compensate for that? And I know that JP was coming off the bench and not giving you starter minutes, but still obviously a huge role in this team. How does Tennessee compensate for that loss right here in the short term?
Well, again, depth helps. So Cade Phillips is a guy that probably didn't give him much talk at all, and he's a guy that factors in. We talked about Akpara and Milicic, and they're going to play big roles for Tennessee. Maybe with Estrella, the conversation ends up being how do they make sure he's healthy later in the season? That has to be something that we talk about. It's a long run, and I know there's a tournament sport aspect, and fans can get into conference play and be tired of hearing, well, it's really about what you do in March, but that's going to apply with a few guys. That's going to apply with Zakai. I hope that he's able to get proper rest at times during this season because they need him to hold up. So anybody that might be dealing with something early on in the season, it's more about what you can get. So in this case, from JP Estrella when you get into conference play and what you can do later in the season, because that's when it's really going to matter. So allowing time for rest while you play some of these games, some against teams that you know you're going to beat, you can give minutes to other guys and not worry about it. You're going to play some big games like against Virginia, Syracuse in a few weeks, Illinois coming up in mid-December. But it's going to be more about what Tennessee does in SEC play, and they can be without a few guys here in non-conference play and be just fine.
Hey, real quick out the door, I know that there's going to be a game by the time we get, this episode goes out, but what have you seen so far from Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols? 4-0 on the season at the time of this recording, scoring a lot of points, 101 points. I know the level of competition's not there, but 101, 90, 89, 109. I mean, it's a high-flying offense.
Yeah, I expect there will be games where we talk about growing pains and all that year one stuff, but Kim Caldwell's not come in to Knoxville saying, well, in a couple of years, we'll be okay. There's been the comparison offensively to Josh Heupel and what he wanted to get done. I think another comparison is Josh Heupel came in and said, okay, here's what we have. And by the way, he had some good players in that first season, guys that were NFL players, but he went in with low expectations and said, this is my team. This is our expectation. This is the standard. Let's see how we can go compete with the best teams. I think Kim Caldwell's plan is coming in after a pretty good season last year, just not Lady Vols standard, saying we're going to get to the standard as quickly as possible. So they're going to put up shots. They are going to score points. There will be games that they lose where Kim Caldwell probably complains about the rebounding. She talked about that, was it last week after a game, where probably just have to lose a game because of rebounding, and that's how they're going to learn. So they will have some of those games. But what's happening in recruiting and what they're doing against lesser competition on the court is an early sign of the work that they've put in. They could have a pretty good team this year, and the program could have a really bright future with what Kim Caldwell's doing.
Josh, what's coming up the rest of the week on the show, plus the Josh and Swain newsletter, where fans can subscribe to that for free in the show notes of this episode?
Yeah, so the first couple of days this week was kind of wound licking. A lot of questions for Jason Swain about what's going on with the offense and the wide receivers and how they can get back to where they were 2 years ago, which is somewhat of a tiring conversation for fans and everybody involved, but it's a conversation that can continue. So a lot of that, but now looking ahead, what does Tennessee need to do? And really, what does Tennessee need other teams to do or not do? So we're talking about that on the show, 12 to 3 every day. You can podcast it, and that newsletter is free every Friday morning.
Great stuff there from Josh Ward, as always. A little bit we like to do called Ward Wednesday right here on Locked On Vols, every single Wednesday show. Big thanks to Matt Ray for his extended time in segments 1 and 2. And a big thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out, man. We're number one in terms of Tennessee football news and entertainment. Weekday mornings, wherever you get your podcast, free and available as well. And you everydayers couldn't do this show without you. So thank you guys so much. We'll continue to work through the week. We'll look at UTEP a little bit as the week goes on. We'll have Boogie Bentley conversations, more on Tennessee and the college football playoff rankings, what needs to happen, and is it fair? All that and more coming up as the week goes on. This is Locked On Vols.